So I was looking today, CNN reported about how Pelosi's special committee on January 6th, right? Because that's what we're doing now. She reported about how they are now trying to get telecommunications companies to fork over phone records for like hundreds of people, including a bunch of
members of Congress.
Yeah, like mostly GOP legislators like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and Jim Jordan and Jim Banks, the people that she cut from the committee in the first place after McCarthy appointed them. And CNN reported the committee's investigation into the deadly riot of January 6th. They keep saying this deadly riot thing over and over, and they refuse to ever just print where a police officer shot an unarmed woman to death with no warning or provocation.
This is one of the darkest stories. I gotta tell you, to be completely honest, from CNN. January 6th committee to ask telecommunications companies to preserve phone records of members of Congress who participated in Stop the Steal rally. They're doing it in increments.
Yes.
They're preserving the records because they don't want to come out now and seize the records.
They did a blacklist last week. Did you see that?
A blacklist?
They did a roundup. They demanded all of the correspondence between.
Oh, that's not a blacklist.
That's number of conservative. It was like conservative journalists and influencers and a bunch of people in the Trump administration and associates thereof.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is the next level. So they're doing it one step at a time. First, it's, we want this information from the government on these individuals, the Trump administration and all the activists who helped end their communications from around election time.
They're trying to pull that from the archives.
They want phone records preserved, which means give it a week and they'll say, okay, now we want those phone records.
That's correct.
So this is...
And they're throwing.
We talk about the collapse of Afghanistan, but this is the collapse of the U.S. No joke.
It's horrifying to watch this unfold. And what we're seeing is that they don't actually have any evidence of the thing that they believe happened. Right?
There's no one charged with insurrection.
That's exactly right. There's very few people charged with assault. There were like very few people charged with previous conspiracy.
Charges.
Right. And the previous conspiracy people were like known members of radical organizations.
I mean, it's like they said, the FBI report said there was no coordination or central planning.
Scant evidence.
Yeah,
they found scant evidence. Yeah.
They said there was some evidence to indicate people planned on breaking into the building, but no actual plan for what that would entail.
That's right.
So people smack talking on the internet, I guess.
That's basically it. And mostly they were doing it on Facebook. Even though they pulled Parler down to punish Parler for Facebook's sins.
And from this, we are now getting the Democratic Party going after their rivals, their political opponents. And everything they accused Trump of doing, they are doing right now to the umpteenth degree.
That's correct.
So this is the end. I can't see how a country can lose in Afghanistan, considering the past examples of the collapses of countries after failing in Afghanistan. Okay, maybe that's unfair, but man, was that bad.
It could shatter the empire. Yeah, for sure. Like the Soviet Union cracked, but Russia remains. So
even a search warrant, you need to have probable cause and say what you're looking for. And this committee, they're not even saying what they're looking for because they don't actually have any idea how they're going to prove that January 6th was a white supremacist conspiracy to overthrow the government.
They don't care about that. They want phone records because those phone records will then leak. Whoops.
Yes, they want all of it because they don't know what they're looking for.
I mean, we're at the age of just don't use a phone. Don't use unencrypted communication.
Right.
Stop. Yeah, that funny story we always people know it better than I do, but that story about the war game they did where like the older guy went up against the younger guys and the older guy won because he sent communications via motorcycle with a written note and they were trying to do digital and they couldn't track it or something like that. It's a funny story. Yeah, but you can't not use a phone. You know what I mean? But you can use things like Signal.
You can use Telegram and Signal, yeah.
Telegram and Signal. You can set up custom operating systems. You can learn how to flash, different operating system on your phone. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's not particularly difficult. But I think the bigger issue here is it's not about looking for evidence. What they're doing is they're saying, for one, if you oppose us, we will dig through all your records. We know those records will leak to the press, whether it's social media or telecommunications. And more importantly, they're looking for strategy.
Well,
they wanted information on all of these people from April 2020 to January 2020.
Right. Once they have that information, could people just put in FOIA requests for it?
So the issue with the first request on social media was that they want government communications, things that already exist.
Right.
So entirely possible now that they've made the announcement.
National Archive stuff.
Now that they've made the announcement that these things potentially exist, I'm sure BuzzFeed already went to town subpoenaing every single one of these individuals. It's actually, there's a funny thing that I did at Vice once. We wanted to do, we never actually did. We were planning it, was to do a FOIA request on ourselves and see what comes up, and then whoever gets the biggest stack is the winner.
Nice.
That's actually
going
kind of
to
fun.
North Korea, Venezuela, you'd wonder who has the bigger, FBI file or whatever. So, but you can easily do this. You can now FOIA request saying like, oh, the Democrats requested this. I would like public information, these documents to be released to the public on all of these individuals and what they were saying. And it's going to leak regardless of FOIA.
Well, the National Archives, I don't think have turned over the information yet. I think they have till like September 9th.
It'll happen.
You think so? It's the second request. The committee asked for it, I think.
Some of it
back
will
in
happen.
March or something. So.
Yes. So some of it's, a lot of the request is new. Some of it didn't get turned over, but I think it will.
Interesting.
Oh, because
we'll
resistance before?
No, I think they just didn't do it. I don't know. I mean, the National Archives, they're probably sitting there like, really? We got to do something? Why?
There's a lot of work.
The CIA,
a lot of work.
The CIA can look at anybody's info at any time without a request. They can do like a kangaroo court and get a FOIA or whatever that.
FISA?
Yeah, FISA.
FISA.
But Congress has to get permission. This is what we're learning, right?
They have
technically,
subpoena power.
Yeah.
This committee has that power.
They could just subpoena, but I think they're slow rolling it. That's why they're saying preserve records.
Yeah.
That's why they're not saying we demand all records immediately. They're slow rolling it so that people don't get shocked. They want the frogs to boil, not jump out of the pot.
Right.
These are truly dark.
I know, it's
days,
annoying.
man.
I thought that the government was going to help me.
Also the the Durham
Growing
report.
up, I was always like, thank God I live in the U.S.
Oh, really?
I thought you meant like recently. I was
Oh,
like,
no.
no way, dude.
For like the last 30 years, I was like, sweet.
Right. I was like, after everything you've said, like,
This government's awesome.
Aren't we still waiting for the Durham report to come out also?
Ooh,
Because
I
the but I think it was due already to talk about
you were like, for a second there, like, is he being serious?
I caught on pretty quick.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
After I was in a little car wreck today,
Oh, man.
everything's a little
I don't think
foggy.
there's going to be a Durham report.
Right, you saw a 4-car pileup you were talking about. This
Oh
is just
yeah,
a little aside.
yeah. It was behind me.
That's crazy. You barely avoided it.
We
Oh, it was
barely
like
avoided
Fast and
it.
Furious, and you like drifted, and the car flew over you, and you're
Yeah.
like,
you rose up out of the car and your
time
green
slows
lasers.
down.
No, there was this crazy truck driver. He didn't brake in time. He smashed into a whole bunch of people, and the car behind me like smashed into us. And then I hit the gas, and we like got out of there.
Did you fear for your life at any time in that?
Kinda, yeah.
That like
But
puts
no,
things
no,
in
like, seriously.
perspective.
I'm a new driver. I've only
Yeah.
been driving for like less than a year now.
Like we talk
so.
politics, yeah, but like when your life is on the line, look at these people in Louisiana right now with this hurricane. We didn't even talk about this
Yeah,
yet. How many
this-
people are stranded right now? Haven't
Roofs coming off of hospitals.
Dude, I remember that one in was 2003, the hurricane that George Bush,
The Katrina.
and they
yeah.
they mishandled that terribly.
1,800
there's,
people died in that.
People were on the
We are-
roofs.
Yeah.
Now we're truly entering the panopticon. Drone footage flying overhead, filming people looting buildings. And
Oh
stuff like
wow,
that.
in Louisiana,
So speaking of surveillance,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah,
and what's
that sees
happening
everything
with
but
politics.
itself. I
and them
love
shutting down
Panopticon.
the airspace over that wreckage earlier is probably because they don't want the panopticon.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're headed towards a future where there's going to be drones over your backyard. You're going to be in your bathroom, and the government drone's going to like fly up to the window, and you're going to be like naked, and it's going to be like, "Do
It's
not
not
be
gonna
alarmed,
be-
citizen.
You
It's
we
not
are
gonna be
simply
the
doing an
government.
ID check," and you're going to be like, "Okay."
You
It's
won't
not
be
going
able
to
to
be
see
the
them.
government drone. It's
It's gonna
going
be
to be Amazon.
Yeah. Or Tesla. Well, maybe not Tesla, or Apple. Like a big apple on
Tesla's
it.
going to have some kind of weird Musk type implosion situation, but it's definitely going to be Amazon saying, "Stay in your homes. We will bring you the things that you require."
Yes.
That was a what show was I watching? I think that was Electric Dreams, the one I was talking about a little bit, where it's like the AI system wipes out humanity by just mass producing products of want, and so then
Right.
eventually humans are just strangled out from the dying environment, and they're like the machines just drop boxes of random garbage. But I think what we'll likely see is with moves like this over the January 6th, they're going after politicians.
Mm-hmm.
They're going after prominent activists. This really does paint a picture of that future where Amazon is like there's a uniparty, like we had a uniparty for some time, but they'll lucratively merge with the likes of Amazon or whatever.
Well, that's already happening. I mean, when you see, the administration was asked if they were going to do vaccine passports, and they said no, there will be no federal vaccine credential, right? But then they supported states doing it, they supported cities doing it, and they have been encouraging businesses to do it themselves. So you see that they're already teaming up. They're already creating this corporate federal infrastructure that is horrifyingly difficult to
like the
to get
CCP.
out of, like the CCP.
Yeah, it's I don't
I
think
think that's real. I mean, this is something I think is definitely happening, and it's happening with all of our acquiescence. We like having little pieces of garbage delivered to our homes.
I just watched this really amazing classical movie. It's called Fast and Furious.
Oh yeah, super.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the classics.
One of the classics. And there's
I have never
a bad
never
guy.
seen this film.
It's good.
You got to see it. You know why? Because I was watching it,
never
and the
seen it.
bad guy's name is Reyes. No, hold on. Listen, okay? The bad guy's name is Reyes.
Okay.
And he's a Brazilian like crime lord. And he was in the beginning of the movie. This is really it's a profound moment. I was thinking about this. He was talking to these two guys, and he says, I don't want to work with you. Your methods are too violent. When you get violent and you back someone into a corner, they have nothing left to lose, and they fight back. I give them something to lose, and then I own them. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's something big. Like I didn't think I was going to get any kind of philosophy from Fast and Furious, but to say like give the people something to lose and then threaten to take it away, you will own them.
That's why the Americans don't want to fight. That's why people don't want to.
That's why we're hooked on
I'm not
Amazon
speaking for everyone
and
here.
iPhones and all of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's too much to lose. Like a nuclear war would. I mean, the people
It's not
in
even
Somalia would lose stuff, but we would lose this.
Look at the people who trespassed and are getting 6 months in prison.
Most of them were like bankrupt already. A lot of these people had nothing.
And
I think Ashley Babbitt, for example,
she's not right.
was like facing bankruptcy.
So these are people, like Reyes said in Fast and Furious, who had nothing left to lose. And so now they're saying what they're doing to these people is a reminder, you still have something left to lose. We will lock you up and torture you in solitary confinement for 8 months. And then you'll realize what you've got to lose. And people are going to see that. That's the message they're sending. Give the people something to lose and you will own them.
It's messed up. Did you see Adam Kokesh? Did you see what they did to him back a few years ago?
No.
He went to D.C. and protested with a shotgun,
Right.
an open carry, and they were like, well, that gives us, what do they call it when they have
Probable cause?
Yeah, probable cause to search your apartment. So they went to his house and they found mushrooms in his apartment, threw him in prison.
For mushrooms?
Just devastated him, and he came out a completely different person. Like, he does not talk crap about the government anymore.
Yeah, probably.
Terrifying, because he was a hardcore activist,
Yeah.
ex-military.
Really?
They just look for it. They bring the hammer when they come.
He doesn't do any anti-government stuff?
I shouldn't say any, but he's not the outspoken vocalist that he was in the early days, like screaming profanity-laced tirades about the military-industrial complex because of mushrooms.
We're going to have a medical. Did you see how the government wants to expand the federal reach into medical research?
No,
That's awesome.
For
What?
mushrooms?
For all of it, really.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
DMT,
This is-
ecstasy.
This is part of
MDMA,
this is
I
part
guess.
of Biden's infrastructure plan. It's like billions of dollars to
Interesting.
create more federal medical infrastructure.
I don't like
So
that.
I don't like it either. And the idea is that when we need vaccines, we would just have the government do it. We wouldn't have to, engage American industry in doing these things in a competitive way.
I was talking to a friend, and they were saying something to me like, this is kind of a lefty person. They're like, I'm really scared about what's happening with these COVID numbers skyrocketing. And I was like, I get it, but I'm like, at what point do you just stop believing everything because of how much they've been wrong? You know what I mean? I'm not to say don't believe the numbers or anything. I'm just like, at a certain point, don't you throw up your arms in futility? Like, I've done everything they've said. Nothing's changed. We got vaccinated. We wore 2 masks. It's all the same. And they just keep blaming other people. And the response was like, but the government's really, really scared, and that freaks me out. And so it's like, I don't know. I guess there's some people. There's 2 ways you can go when you come to the futility of like, I just don't know anymore. I'm broken mentally on this one. I've seen too much reversions and back and forth. I'm just like, you go do your thing. I don't even know. But then other people say, I give up. Just tell me what to do. I don't want to think anymore.
I think that is the point. I think it's an intentional confusion. So once once we give up logic, we have nothing. And the regulations and the rules that are coming down to us don't make any cohesive sense. They're not based on anything, right? And so if you look to, for example, absurdist literature from Eastern Europe during the Cold War, if you look at like Kafka, or if you look at Václav Havel, right, who was a brilliant playwright who ended up president of the Czech Republic randomly after the Velvet Revolution. But you can see in this literature where these writers have discovered or they rather elucidate the way that communism worked in those nations, where it's like they tell you one thing and then they do something else. Like if you look at the trial, right? Did you read Kafka's Trial? So I read this in high school, and I had to convince them to let me read it, but whatever. So this guy, K, ends up on trial, and he can never get any real information as to what he's on trial for, what it's about, who his solicitor is, what the punishments are going to be. It's all just very confusing. And it's very much like in Metamorphosis, where he becomes the bug, right? So the guy, and this is probably easier to explain, but so he wakes up one morning, he's a cockroach. He's horrified that he's a cockroach. He doesn't know what to do about it. He goes all through, how am I going to explain this? What am I going to do? I don't know. As soon as he accepts the fact that he's a cockroach and nothing makes any sense and there's no way out of it, that's the end. That's kind of the whole story.
He's like, I'm going to go eat some garbage.
No, he just kind of dies. He dies under his bed, I think.
Well, that's brutal.
Well, yeah, but that's what this is. If they confuse you enough, if they make you so confused that you stop questioning it, because to question it itself is going to make you crazy, that's sort of the end goal, because then you don't question, then you just do what you're told. You just show up where you're supposed to show up. You hand over what they tell you to hand over. And in return, you get to have a drink on Smith Street in Brooklyn.
And watch The Simpsons.
Yeah, watch The Simpsons and jerk off, right? You get to do that too.
I studied about the...
They even gave everyone their OnlyFans back.
Okay. I saw that.
They're like, we can't take that away. It's distracting people.
It's too much.
I tweeted this thing out. It's on my Twitter feed somewhere, about the gamification of trust, sociological trust. And what's happening, according to this game theory study, is that not that we've been overloaded with communication and that there's too much of it, all this new information, the red pilling and the war on terror and the all that, but it's that the amount of misinformation is causing people to distrust each other. Mm-hmm. And then the cheaters, the ones that are willing to game that and work with the distrust, are proliferating as a result. And if there's too much misinformation, cheaters will overwhelm the system, and then you'll have a system of cheaters. If there's not too much distrust or misinformation, then the people that are willing to kind of play the game are going to override the cheaters.
There are some prominent leftist personalities who have always claimed to be anti-fascist, who are all of a sudden now making YouTube videos being like, why would anyone oppose government mandates on forced medical procedures? And I'm like, it's so weird. For me, I've always been so in favor of freedoms. I've always been opposed to the coalescing of corporate power, that I find myself aligned with whoever at the time seems to oppose the coalescing of massive corporate and government power. So it used to be the left. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they're all pro-corporate power, and now it's the right. And I say it all the time. In a few years, there'll be a shift backwards, and it's people like Jack Murphy, a really great example of somebody who was a Democrat. Now he's like Democrat to deplorable. And I don't think it's that he's a Republican by party. He's a Republican by, who's willing to support more of his ideals. And I feel that way. So I have a feeling that a lot of people like us, who are like maybe in the middle right now, leaning to one side or the other, will shift back and forth depending on which tribe wants to actually adopt freedom.
And who's actually willing to back our natural rights. To what you were saying, Ian, about this misinformation thing, people aren't able to think critically. So they're not able to differentiate between what's, supposedly misinformation and what's actually true or anything like that. And in part, that's because we've completely destroyed our educational system. So we've destroyed the canon. We've destroyed the literary canon. We've taken away Shakespeare and Homer and, all of this other stuff that used to tell us kind of a timeline of, this is a timeline of human thought about ideas. This is how you can, track truth. This is how you can understand things. We've taken that all away. We've replaced it with stuff that we think is appropriate to think about now. And we've been left with a public that doesn't know how to think clearly because we haven't given them any examples as to how to do so.
I'd like to read a text message I received allegedly from the ACLU.
All right.
I have a series of text messages from a number from, I'm not going to say the number, but it's an ACLU number, supposedly. They say, as schools start nationwide, Kimberly Crenshaw talks teaching the truth about race in America. Check out our podcast. Back to school merch that backs civil liberties. Why did the ACLU text me saying that Kimberly Crenshaw is going to, have a podcast about back to school stuff? Listen.
She created intersectionalism.
Kimberly Crenshaw is as close as you can get to being a Nazi as you can in the modern era, in my opinion. When I see the stupid people walking around with the symbols of the Nazi party or whatever, or like the bikers who do it because they're trying to be, punk or edgy or anti-establishment, that's very different from someone who is overtly identitarian, wanting government based on race, and is a proponent of fascistic ideologies, whether they assert them by like verbatim or not. But the people who are like, I believe the government should have absolutely authority to do these things, and also I think the law should be based on race. Okay, yeah, that's as close as you can get to what the Nazis were doing. So when I see some of these prominent, leftist YouTubers with over 1 million subs, and they're like, these anti-vaxxers are saying that the vaccine mandates are bad and the government shouldn't be doing this, but people should just do what the government tells them. I'm like, so you support race-based ideology, identitarianism.
So does the government.
You support massive multinational pharmaceutical countries getting guaranteed no liability contracts, and you support the government forcing people to undergo medical procedures. Yo, you're Nazis.
Yes.
You're as close as you can get to it.
You're at the very least fascist.
Yes.
I'm just gonna go straight for violating Godwin's law right away, because look. When someone's like, you just want people to live the way you want because you're a Nazi, it's like, well, hold on. I personally think people should take care of their own decisions and take care of themselves and their friends and their families, so long as they're not hurting other people. It's the dominant left Democrat faction that are basically saying pro-corporate power, guaranteed contracts for massive unaccountable pharmaceutical countries, and the government will mandate the Medicaid
companies.
Pharmaceutical countries.
Sounds
Twice
exciting.
you said that, dude. Are you prophesying something?
No.
I know we have theocracies.
You see what's happening? Because they're merging in my mind like I'm
Lord.
slipping.
The other
Listen.
thing too is
Massive multinational corporations say, here is the product, and these left establishment people are going, yay, save us, Big Pharma. And then the government says, and you have to buy their product. And they go, yay, save us. And I love it. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks said, do you think if the right-wingers came out and said seatbelts were tyranny, that they would all stop wearing them? And I'm like, yo, libertarians do think forcing people to wear seatbelts is tyranny. And you know what? I remember this back in Illinois when they passed the law saying you have to wear a seatbelt, click it or ticket. And what I was told, I'm not saying it's true because I was a kid at the time and it was just the scuttlebutt I heard from the adults, was, the insurance companies were lobbying for seatbelt laws because it made sure their profits stayed the same because you have to have insurance, but it meant their payouts would go down because people were less likely to get injured. And the politicians saw it as a safety issue, and the insurance companies saw it as a reducing their expenses issue. So yes, it very much was in this Bloombergarian idea of the people are too stupid to live their own lives, so the nanny states tell them what they have to do. And now we have click it or ticket.
I hate the thing too where it's like people are like, why don't you the vaccine is free, just get it. And it's like it's not, it's so obviously not free. The Pfizer one is like $19.25 a shot. The other ones are like $10 or something like that. It's like my kid is going to be paying for all of this stuff. What?
They were doing free vaccines for a while, but I think that ended, didn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure it's still
stuff?
free.
I think so.
You could get it free at the Rite Aid.
Oh, I thought you were saying it wasn't free.
No, it is free, but it's not free. I mean, it's not actually free.
There's
The
nothing
government
free.
is paying for it.
Oh, right.
Our taxes are paying.
So
for it.
we're paying for it. And the
We're paying
administration is like
Moderna.
sending out $250 a month to families who have kids for like every kid.
See,
which is weird.
But
the thing too is like this booster shot thing, right? So now booster shots
every
are
5 months.
Yeah. So we're just going to keep paying for that forever. It's like they finally figured out a way to turn us all into lifelong medical patients. They've been trying to do that for a while now, and here it is. And so at a certain point, your vaccine passport is useless anyway, unless you re-up your dose.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.